Hey guys, it's Mike from Shamino's workshop. I have a new 89sabers OWK. This is a personal project, so what I like to do on these is, set up a little display, show off some of my other Obi-Wan related sabers, in the background while I show off this installed saber. So let's start with the saber itself. So this is an 89sabers OWK1, obtained through Corbanth, and installed with a new removable custom chassis that I'll throw up on the Etsy store soon. And so I'll dive into this in a second. Over here is a Parks OWK, also sold through Corbanth previously, no longer. But you can still find this, I believe, on eBay through Parks, and I think Parks still has a website. You might be able to buy it through there. This is installed. I probably have a video on this, but this is an older version of ProffieOS, very old version that has a lot of modifications to it, and is installed with a Gothmaster chassis, an older version of the Gothmaster chassis, but has a nice little crystal reveal here. This spins to show or hide. So that's pretty cool. On the right over there, that's my Master Replica Limited Edition, number 475 of 2500. So that's a decent low number. Attack of the Clones, and then over here, the smaller scale, but same model, and then some other Obi-Wan sabers. So those are always fun to kind of have in the background. All right, so let's get back to this. It does come with a blade plug. It comes with a spare pommel ring. One has holes. The other one does not have holes. I believe that was the difference between, or one of the differences between episode 1 and 2. And then you get some tooling, some Allen keys. I should have brought a stand. I guess we'll just leave that there. So we got a cover tech, we got our pommel. The buttons both operate, so power, which are just plungers. If you're familiar with other 89saber hilts, he designs these plungeable buttons or switches, which makes creating a removable chassis, because the plungers don't have switches, or the buttons don't have tactile switches in them. They just plunge. So you push it, it pushes down a plunger, and that plunger then hits a switch. And so it's a nice design, because now you could produce a chassis that has switches embedded in it, allowing it to be removed without having to worry about wires. Unlike this style, where this is hitting a switch, and that switch has wires running down, so you can't remove it. It has these LED, these bevels that can be removed. I have them on pretty tight. So really just allows shine through. There's no LED backing these outside of the Shtok NeoPixel connector. So why don't we start by opening it. Little palm slap, bump it out, and you see it'll remove. And so we just got a basic setup here. 24 mil bass speaker, 18650 removable battery with Keystone battery terminals, on-off switch, currently on, I believe. ProffieBoard. I may look into, I don't own Golden Harvest or Verso boards, so I may look into purchasing some of those boards and then you know, add a hilt variation so that you could pick a board to install. Go tactile switches, positive, power and auxiliary, and then a Shtok V3 NeoPixel PCB. You know, there's a few different versions of these now. The hilt is the chassis is designed to use short pin versions, so V2, V3, Eco with a short pin. Ecos really don't come in short or long pins, so if you're going to go Eco, maybe don't use the Eco pins. Maybe get yourself short pins and use those instead. A long pin would work, and then you could put perhaps a faceplate over it to protect the bottom of the long pins, but then you could put some sort of faceplate over it, and that should be okay, because really at the end of the day, what I was going for was just ensuring that the PCB was lower than the LED bevels so that the light would shine through, as well as when you have a blade inserted, that the blade passes the bevels so that the light from the blade shines through. So if you went with long pins, well, obviously those pins will just be a little bit longer, so your blade depth will be reduced a little bit, and the use of the faceplate to protect the pins so you don't damage them, right? This way you don't seat the blade down too much and damage pins, because you can see the compression part of the pins are above the hilt. But if you were to use long pins, then the long pin would sit higher, and then if you put a blade in, you could crush that or drive these pins too far down, and then they get stuck. So, all right, long rant over. ProffieBoard for me, you know, I just press fit them in. It's a good press fit. If you wanted to use tape, a little bit of glue, you have plenty of room to get an angled USB adapter to remove the SD card. So there's really no reason to remove this once it's installed. I'll probably just throw a little bit of E6000 in the corners, secure it in place, and that's good. Battery, you could just pop out. And the speaker, same thing. I haven't glued in my speaker yet, but it's a nice press fit in there. But usually I would throw some glue, maybe some black hot glue, into these areas, or sometimes I'll just throw hot glue right in there, so on these little speaker knobs, so little dots, and then that gets secured in place. And hot glue is easy to kind of break apart if you needed to. E6000, whatever you want. I'm just saying that's what I would normally do. And the same thing up here. The PCB I don't have glued in, but you could always throw a little E6000 just to keep it in place. And then right here, this is just so you could pop out the PCB if you needed to. But you could also pop it out, you know, by removing the ProffieBoard and just kind of using a dowel or plastic tool to pop it out. All right, let's show it off. So we'll turn it on. I have two fonts installed. One is the Negotiator, so a Fourzze, an old Fourzze font that he's updated semi-recently, I think. So I have that update installed. And I also have JuanSith's Obi-Wan the Phantom Menace font installed. And And for that, I had to, so JuanSith, out of the box, he includes very bassy and loud swings, smooth swing files and swing files. They were causing too much noise on the speaker, too much crackling. Blaster, boot, force, like all the other font files were fine. But he also provides like a bassless or not bassy swing files, and that solved it for me. At first I thought maybe it was a speaker issue, but all the other fonts work fine. It's just JuanSith's bassy sound fonts that were causing an issue, and I assume he provides bass and bassless options for a reason. So for what that's worth. Yeah, so power's on.
Take it out, Corporal. We'll cover you. Roger, roger.
So this is the JuanSith one.
Hello there.
This is the negotiator. Okay, and so let's talk about some other aspects of this chassis. Similar to the Parks model, if you take this cover tech off, it'll spin and then allow you to reveal the chassis underneath it. So similar concept. The difference here is this won't spin with the cover tech locked in, where this actually spins even though the cover tech is locked on. So a little different design, but you can see there's a faceplate here. Maybe you can see it in there. There's two Phillips screws that hold this cover on. So you could remove the cover and have a static display, or you could leave the cover in, right, and then take the cover tech off or loosen the screw. No, I think you have to take it off. And then you can rotate it to reveal. I've designed this chassis, since there's really no chamber or anything to look at, where you'll keep the plate in. But the plate sticks out a little bit, millimeter and a half, it sticks up. So I couldn't design a chassis that has, I needed to create that recess on the chassis. So that's what I did. So it's not half, it's about half, but as maybe you can see, there's a recess. It's not a consistent outside diameter on the chassis. It has a recess, which actually worked out in getting the chassis in, because now it's sort of your alignment guide, right? This won't spin because of that, and so that's nice, right? Because I can't really get this in the wrong direction. And so you could just push it in, lock your pommel on, and then I'll show you what I mean. If we remove the cover tech, maybe loosen the pommel a little bit. What's holding that in place? The chassis is holding that in place. That's what. No. This should slide out freely. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure what happened there. Did I bend it? No? You know, so with this removed, you can see, right, it just kind of slides in, catches on the groove. And so, you know, if you wanted to, sorry, that's my timer just letting me know to look at, remind myself to look at the, at my camera to make sure it didn't shut off. So, just going to set another short timer, and for those that watch my other videos, you know that my camera will just decide to randomly shut off. So, you know, I tried to design it also so that, you know, if you wanted to, without having to remove the chassis, you could access the ProffieBoard, SD card, battery. I don't find that necessary because you'd have to take, let's see. I don't understand what's going on here. Something's rubbing. This should turn freely. And it doesn't have anything to do with the chassis. I must have... Yeah, like it's stuck right there. Yeah. But that's the idea, right? Is that with this on, it would rotate so that you could reveal the inside or hide it. And then there's the cover tech hole for that screw. Oh, that's unfortunate. I must have bent in... Actually, I think I know what happened. So I'll get into it with the blade, but I have an idea of what I did there. Okay. You know, my focus is on, you know, your basic chassis. I'll let the big players create their crystal chamber chassis and whatnot, and I'll focus more on the budget style chassis. My only other thought, and maybe I'll still do this, is I might move the on-off switch back, and I could probably even move the ProffieBoard back, and that'll give you just a small area. Maybe we could throw a crystal in there, maybe a pixel, you know, pixel strip or something, and you could do what you want in that area. You know, it's big enough to do something, but we'll see. Okay, let's get this back in. Okay. And so as you can see, you get good shine through. This is just the light off of the Shtok V3 PCB. You do get a little bit of light bleed through on the auxiliary switch. It is a transparent style plastic that he uses for the plunger, so that allows a little bit of light to shine through. That's cool. And then blade plug has nice shine through. So the blade plug is included, which is nice. I like when blade plugs are included with the hilt. So that just drops out. So that's cool. And then you can see, you know, we got good blade depth there. Very good, in fact. My gripe with this, though, is 1-inch blade, 1-inch blade socket. It gets stuck. So not really sure what's going on there. That definitely should have been more accommodating to a 1-inch blade. And I sand my blades. This demo blade has been sanded over the years. And I always have issues with 89 sabers because, you know, he's probably doing metric, not imperial. And so 1 inch is really not a true 1 inch. And so this blade is real, and so this one's worse, in my opinion, because this blade has been sanded. I know I've sanded this down. And so for me to have to sand this even further, I don't know, something's wrong. So what happened, I think, is me putting this in, and I'm just trying to be careful. So, yeah, there we go. I don't want to crush the pins by doing it too much. I don't even need to put the blade retention screw in because it's that tight. I think what happened though is because this got stuck the first time and I was having a hard time getting it out. I think what I did was trying to get it out, I probably held this too tight and bent it. That's what I'm assuming right now. Which is why this is not turning well, because it's deformed somewhere. So I just need to figure out where it's deformed and maybe I can correct that. So don't do that. Maybe it'll be better to get a 7/8 inch blade and some sort of socket that would you know, reduce the blade socket from their 1 inch or whatever it is down to 7/8 inch. I don't know. What, you know, the nice thing about the Parks model was you got different adapters. I believe here you could go 7/8 inch or 1 inch. User preference. Yeah. And I've said this on other videos too. I need to rebuild my demo blade, but it like gets frozen up. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I did it again. You know, so what's nice, even with the blade in, right, whatever effects are happening down here in the blade are coming through. So nothing with drag, nothing with blaster, because those effects are all happening up here. But, you know, you get your lock up, so you get some effects that'll shine through. Overall, I'm pleased with it. All right, just doing a check here. Looking good still. Sorry about that. Yeah, so, you know, as you can see, I'm going to have a hard time getting the blade out. I even sanded this blade down more last night. I just have to be careful not to grip up here, but to grip down at the pommel. And I'm actually turning clockwise, because this piece rotates and comes off. So I'm turning clockwise to keep that tight as I gently pull out. That's what she said. You know, so this comes off, but there's no secondary. These 3 bevels come out. They're just screws. So generally what I do is a little bit of double-sided tape go there, and that gives me just enough adhesion and friction to turn these. So instead of using glue or Loctite, you don't want to do that with these, because you want to be able to take these out if you had to disassemble the emitter. So, you know, it's probably just a piece of resin or something that is molded into that. So these 3 come off, and then The buttons themselves are just screws with plungers, so they come off too. And they have little recesses in this brass piece where you could take a small screwdriver or something and turn it to tighten it or to loose it. But here you can see I left it a little loose, but still too tight. But you could take these two things off. So you take the 3 LED bevels off, you take the 2 switches out, this will come off. The top metal piece will come off, but the black piece is still adhered using set screws. So once you take all the screws out and the cover off, you can then use you can then use one of these hex screws. I forget the size, but you're basically going to go through the screw holes with an Allen wrench, provided with the kit, and you'll loosen the set screw or remove the set screw, back it out. You'll do that here, you'll do that here, and you'll do that here. There's another hole that you don't see. Take those 3 set screws out, then the emitter comes off. And for me designing the chassis, that was very helpful to be able to get up into the emitter section. But for installing the chassis, you wouldn't have to take this apart to just install the chassis and slide it in. So that's not a requirement. Put that back on. Still going. All right. So that's it. Short and sweet. Short and sweet. Any questions, comments, concerns? Reach out, leave a comment. And yeah, that's it, I guess. So thanks for watching, guys. Until the next video.